Hello and welcome to today's webinar. I see we have people who are joining us, and I'm so happy to see you. Hopefully you can all hear me. I'm just going to open up my chat, open up my Q&A, and just give you a minute to settle into our Zoom room today. So how's everybody doing? How are you? It's this Thursday, June 26th. And I'm excited to have you here today to join me for what is going to be, I hope, a transformative session for you. I am going to get started. And for anybody who is watching the recording, welcome. To those of you who are here in person, welcome. Today, we are going to have a mid-year reset. And what I'm most excited about is that this is an opportunity for you to recalibrate, to assess where you are, and to create a plan for the balance of the year. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Now, today's webinar is going to be a little bit different from webinars that I've done previously for the mid-year reset. I've done them a couple of years in a row now, and typically I have a lot of slides and we go over a lot of information. And today, what I'm really, really interested in helping you do is to connect with yourself. So in a minute, I'm going to unshare my screen. I wanted to have this slide up so that you knew you were in the right place. And this is going to be a lot more like a coaching conversation than anything else. I think this is the most valuable thing that I can give to you right now. If I look at what is going on around us, it is so noisy. And if you're like me, you have been burning the candle at both ends with your kids getting out of school and activities and workload and all of it. And what I have found really hard to do is to carve out time simply to reflect. And that time is precious, it's valuable, and it's time we don't often just give ourselves. And so I want to commend you for choosing to be here today and to give yourself that time to reflect and for us to be together to help you come up with your plan for the balance of the year. What we're going to focus on today are those things that are important but not urgent. I want today to feel spacious to you. So this is, it might feel a little bit slower, and that's intentional. I want that to be the pace for you, that you've got time to think. There's a quote that there's a gentleman, Charles Duhigg, who has written some really incredible books, one of them being The Power of Habit, one of them being Smarter, Better, Faster. And Charles Duhigg said recently in a podcast interview that the greatest productivity app is actually the ability to think deeply. So we're often looking outside of ourselves for some device, some trick, some tool to help us. And actually, the best thing that we can do is to think deeply. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm going to help you think deeply about your life, about your practice, about the year, so that you walk away feeling like you have greater clarity, you know yourself better, and you have the seeds of transformation that have been planted. So, what you will not see today, I'm not going to have a lot of slides. I notice people are still joining, so you may have missed what I was saying earlier. Is it's going to be a little bit of a different setup today. I'm going to do the webinar much more like a coaching conversation. I'll be asking you a lot of questions. And I'm not going to be having a lot of checklists. I'm not going to be giving you advice. I don't think you need to listen to somebody else tell you what to do. I think we have enough of that happening already. Today, it's going to be about you. It's going to be an opportunity to reflect. I'm going to give you the space that you need, maybe the space that you're craving. And again, I just want to acknowledge and commend you for taking the time out of your schedule so that you can spend this time focusing on you, focusing on your mid-year, where you're at, and where you want to go. So, what are we going to do today? What can you expect? There will be a lot of questions. I'm going to ask you questions to help you assess where you are currently, for better and for worse. I'm going to ask you questions about where you want to go. We'll talk about shifts that will help you get there. And then finally, I'm going to walk you through an exercise where we're going to take a thematic approach to the next 6 months. So it's almost like you're writing a story with different chapters, and I'll give you prompts to help you get there. Uh, what I want for each of you is to feel grounded and calm and focused during today's call. What I'm hoping the questions will do is help you raise awareness about yourself. And the most magical thing that can happen from my perspective is that you have those aha moments where you have these takeaways, where you have these realizations about things that maybe were bubbling beneath the surface, but now they have come to the surface. So I'm going to help you do that. Now, I also want to set the expectation that answering these questions might feel really hard. When I work with clients and I ask them questions about the future, about what they want to envision themselves 6 months out, sometimes it can be really, really challenging to answer the questions because it's not something that you give thought about day to day. You're busy with the actual tangible, what's in front of you. Somebody has an email that requires an urgent response. Your child needs to be picked up from school because something happened. So we're so used to dealing in the moment. And what we're doing now is taking that step back and reflecting. And sometimes it can be really hard. So if it feels hard to answer the questions, do your best. Do your best to answer the questions to the best of your ability. And you can always go back and change your answers later. So what you will need today, you will need a pen and paper. Absolutely, I encourage you to write down your answers to the questions. Um, I encourage you to give yourself the space. So hopefully you're in a space where you can think. You have the capacity to tune out the outside world. An open mind is going to be very helpful to help you think about what it is that you're really wanting. Um, and what I will do after today's session is I will send you a link to the recording. I'll send you a document that has all of the questions on it. So I mentioned there won't be any slides today, but I will send you the questions so that you'll have those for reflection. I didn't want you to be distracted by trying to read and write at the same time. Really, the essential thing here is for you to turn inward and focus on your answers. Now, if you are new to me, my name is Paula Price, and I am a former litigator. I used to work in effectively big law in private practice, doing commercial litigation for the better part of my years in practice, which was about 12 years. In the past 7 years, I have started a coaching practice. I work exclusively with lawyers, and I help lawyers in all phases of career growth, transition, things like leadership, practice management, goal setting, balancing your work and your non-work interests and commitments. Um, and I work with lawyers in all different types of practices. So big firm lawyers, small firm lawyers, solo practitioners, in-house government. I would say that the majority of my clients are in big firms or in solo or smaller firms. I'd say that's the most part. And I would say the issues that come up most frequently are around practice management, goal setting and leadership, decision making, confidence building. And one of the things that I will talk about at the end of today's session is a group coaching and mastermind program that I offer exclusively for women lawyers. I have been running it for the past 2.5 years. We wrapped up the session from January, that started in January yesterday, and it is truly a transformative experience for those who participate and for me as well as your coach. It is a unique container where we go month to month and we have group coaching calls. I'm not going to go into it right now, but I will talk about it when we wrap up our session. And if you are a woman lawyer who is interested in participating in something like that, then you can ask me questions at the end and we can have a follow-up call as well if that's something that would be helpful for you. So before we start, I'm actually going to unshare my screen now. So you will see my face, and hopefully that's okay. Again, I'm trying to turn this into more of a conversation than me talking at you. So here we are, face to face, and I've got my chat and my Q&A open. So if you've got any questions, you're absolutely welcome to put them in the Q&A. And if you'd like to share in the chat, please do. I'd love to hear from you. So first, before we get started, ask yourself what it is that you'd most like to get out of today's session. So, are you here because you want clarity? Do you want a plan for the summer? Do you want a plan for the next 6 months? Is there a question on your mind that has been bugging you? So, your first thing is really to ask yourself what it is that you want from today's call. Now, I have a grounding exercise and I'm going to walk you through it. It's not something that I normally do, but I want, again, to get us into that zone where you're feeling very connected to yourself. So it's a simple grounding exercise and it's a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 exercise. You may have heard of it before, you may have done it before. And it starts out with you doing 5 things that you can see. So look around, maybe you pick 5 different colored items. I'm looking outside of my window. I can see a blue deck chair. I see white clouds in the sky. I see a green tree. I see a sticky note behind my computer, and I see my mug. So 5 things you see. Next, we're going to look at 4 things you can feel. So maybe the feeling of your sweater. It might be the feeling of the cool air on your skin, the feeling of your feet on the ground in front of you, the feeling of your fingers on your chin, and that was 4. So we're good. And then 3 things that you can hear. So what can you hear? I can hear the hum of my computer. You can probably hear the sound of my voice. And in the background, I can hear a beeping noise. There's something happening in the lane nearby. And then 2 is what can you smell? I can smell perfume. And I can smell basically just the smell of my house. That's where I am. And then taste. For me, it's minty. I recently brushed my teeth. For you, you might be eating your lunch. So that's a way of getting reconnected with your senses, and that's simply to ground you. Again, we're going to this place of calm, and I'm just really hoping that it sets you up to answer the questions. So please get out your pen and paper, and hopefully you've already done that to let us know what it is that you want from today's session. Now, you can put that in the chat. If you put it in the chat, I'll certainly read it. You can do host and panelists, and you don't need to, or if I see your name, I won't call you out. You can remain confidential, anonymous. And what I want you to start with is a list of all the things you've accomplished this year. Now, this is going to be an exhaustive list, as exhaustive as we can make it in today's call. I have allocated time for these questions, and so what I would hope is that you're going to answer it. So I'm going to give you some ideas, and as I'm talking, you can kind of drown out the sound of my voice if it's bothering you or if it's distracting you. The focus here is on you writing out your accomplishments, all of them, since January 1st, 2025. So you might think of where you were that time of the year, at the beginning of the year. Maybe you set some goals for yourself, maybe you didn't. It doesn't matter. I just want you to write all of the things that you feel proud of or that you've accomplished since the beginning of the year. So if you start with your work, for example, what are some of the projects that you've done? Maybe you've done court applications, maybe you've had files with your clients that have gone really well. You have had skills that you've developed. Maybe you've had some firsts, maybe run a first trial. Maybe you've run your first trial with a really large client. Whatever it is. So think about for you. You're going to have a practice that you know best. And so you know what it is. And there is no item too small or too big that can go on this list. What I'm encouraging you to do is to fill the page and at least have 10, at least 10 skills that you've developed, projects, deals, relationships at work. Is there anybody at work or clients that you've managed to form relationships with? Write it all down. Did you go to a networking event and meet somebody new? Did you speak at a conference? Um, did you make changes in your practice? Maybe you've been upping your game as a leader and you've had some opportunities to really navigate your team in a particular direction or support a colleague or bring somebody up behind you. Have you made a transition For some of you, you may be in a new role that you started at the beginning of the year. And so part of your accomplishments might be getting familiar with your new environment, making new connections within your new workplace, setting up some boundaries and systems. So, what is it that is new? Maybe you've hired new staff, maybe you've made a decision to leave your firm and create your own firm. Please, I encourage you to put all of these things in writing. Now, I am imagining you with your pen in hand, writing on the paper, and I'm hoping that you are noticing all of the things that are coming to mind for you as things that you have accomplished this year. Now, in addition to work, you might add things like your physical and mental health. You may have had goals or things that you were thinking about doing at the beginning of the year that you put on your wish list, right? Maybe you wanted to get more sleep, or you wanted to be more conscientious about the lunches that you brought to work. Maybe you wanted to start using a delivery service. Maybe you want for your meals. Maybe you wanted to take more time to get outside or join a gym, whatever it was. And so think about the things that you're doing to care for yourself mentally and physically, and write those down as well. So those I would count in your accomplishments for the year. So again, it could be movement, nutrition, rest, self-care. Maybe you're getting consistently 8 hours of sleep, in which case you're winning. You're winning. Um, Boundaries, right? Maybe you're setting better boundaries. Maybe you have greater self-awareness. If you're here and you're answering these questions already, you're having greater self-awareness. You're noticing right now what it is that's a win for you. You might think of where you've reached out for support. Maybe there are things where you've been reluctant to ask for help, and now you're finally doing that and you feel good about that. And maybe there's other ways that you've improved your physical and mental health. Maybe it's by reading books or listening to certain podcasts or learning about new areas. So here I would just encourage you to think about some of the things that you feel really good about having done this year. Other categories, relationships. So have you had difficult conversations? Now you can think about relationships with people at work. Maybe you've already thought about that, but what other relationships? So relationships with family members, friends, your partner, your children, um, people maybe who you don't have a super close relationship. Maybe it's a strained relationship. So what are you proud of? What have you done in terms of relationships, whether it's having difficult conversations that needed to be had, relationships with your children, where maybe you've stepped into a new level of parenting. Children are always changing, which requires us to change along with them. So maybe you've reached a new threshold there. Maybe you've got friendships where you feel like you're really reconnecting with people who matter to you, or maybe you're letting friendships go. You're realizing they're not really right for you. They're not ones that feel good to you. Um, Maybe you've gracefully navigated a difficult or tricky situation. Maybe you've been dealing with really difficult situations. Maybe someone close to you, maybe you have had a diagnosis and you're dealing with maybe some of the grief and difficulty that can come along with that. So, here again, acknowledging yourself. And finally, the last category that I have is the nebulous other category. So, what have we not covered here? What have I not covered that you feel like you've accomplished? It could be a trip you've taken, so travel. Maybe you bought a new car. Maybe you moved from one work or one living space, one house, one apartment, one place to another, one city to another. Maybe you've really been proud of something in your leisure activities, or maybe it's just pleasure, right? You've been making time for yourself in ways that you had hoped to, and you feel good about that. So I'm hoping that by now, with me kind of speaking with you in the background and you've written out your list, that you can look at your list ahead of you, in front of you. And I would love to ask you questions, right? As you look at that list, I've got some questions for you. So I'm going to go through them. You do not have to answer all of these right now. I will give you the list, but if you do, please do jot down your answers. How do you feel when you look at that list? And what I'm hoping is that you're feeling proud, that you're feeling strong, that you feel impressed with yourself, that, wow, like maybe you didn't realize when you sat down for the call today just how much you've been doing this year. And it's funny because yesterday was my birthday and it was a wonderful day. I feel very blessed to have the people I have in my life. I feel really blessed for my children to be where they are right now. And at the same time, I did not get to do one of the things that I really wanted to do, which was go to a coffee shop and write in my journal. And so, what I will be doing later today or tomorrow is taking this list of questions with me to my favorite coffee shop and journaling about them. Because to me, having that time to just list out all of the things, I know I'm going to feel so good about it. Not that I've done an incredible amount necessarily, but that I'm going to see it all in one place. And I'm hoping that that's how you feel. So the next question, in addition to how you feel, is what challenges did you need to overcome? I mean, when you look at that list of things that you've accomplished, no doubt there are sacrifices that you've made, difficult conversations that you've had, difficult feelings you've had to overcome. So what do you feel really proud about there? Or what did you need to overcome? Or what maybe it was a personal obstacle, other people's opinions, sometimes other people's judgment. Maybe you had some technical or logistical hurdles that you needed to overcome. I want you to ask yourself and to reflect on moments over the course of the year so far where you've needed to make a choice and you've chosen to do the hard thing. I know there have been moments for each of you where something really hard has come up. I know I've had a few of those decisions this year. I'm thinking of one in particular where you had a fork in the road and you could have taken the easy route and instead you chose to do the hard thing. So, where did that come up for you? What did you learn about yourself, right? If you look at who you were, right? January 1st, 2025, and who you are now, what do you notice about yourself? What do you know now that maybe you didn't know then? And can you see where maybe you are wiser, more knowledgeable, more mature today than you were at the beginning of the year? And it might be hard to see because 6 months isn't a huge passage of time, but there may be something there for you where you really notice. Again, giving a personal example, one of my word of the year this year was breakthrough, and we're still in the middle of it, so I'm still seeing what breakthrough truly means. And it was surprising to me, or it's been surprising to me because I didn't really know going into it what kind of breakthrough. So far, the biggest one is self-trust. And so if I look at the January 1st version of me versus this version of me, self-trust is being put more on the foremost and more of a guiding point in terms of decision making going forward. So for you, what is happening this year? What are you learning about yourself that's going to help guide you for the rest of the year? Um, if you look at that list, what on that list makes you feel the most proud? I mentioned at the beginning, put everything on that list. So maybe there's some things that are really small, really big. And what resonates with you? Like when you look at that list and you feel proud, what is it? And what feels important to you? So if you look at the list, what makes you feel proud, right? And that kind of goes to a different point, right? It's like, what did you probably have to work really hard to do? What did you have to overcome? What gives you that sense of pride? And then what feels most important? And for me, I've answered similar questions recently, and my family, far and away, strides we've made as with my children in particular, that is what I am absolutely most proud of. There are other things I've done that I feel good about, but that I think is the most proud and also the most important. So the purpose of going through these questions, we're kind of done with this section for now. I mean, you can always come back to it, but the goal here was to acknowledge yourself. And we are all in the Zoom room together. And so um, collectively, I would love for us to share that energy with each other that right now I am acknowledging you. I see you, I'm acknowledging you, and I'm celebrating you for that list that you've produced. And it doesn't matter if your list is a list of 3 or if it's a list of 30. What matters is that these are the things that you have done and that you get to see and acknowledge yourself for it. I hope that you feel proud of what you've accomplished so far this year. I hope that you've noticed as we've gone through this exercise what has energized you, what feels good, where you're like, ooh, I kind of like that. I want to do more of it. What feels important. And also, I hope you've noticed what doesn't feel important. So the next section that we're going to do, I should have maybe said this at the beginning, we're really going through three phases. Phase one is we're assessing where you're at in the year. Phase two is forecasting ahead what you want for 2025. And then phase three is going to be helping you create a plan. So I think I did mention that actually at the very beginning, but just reiterating it for anybody who joined the call maybe a bit later. So what we're going to do next is we're going to do the list, the list of shame, the naughty list, the didn't get done list, the to-do list, the outstanding to-do list, the horrible things that maybe wake you up at 2 a.m. And we want to put them on paper. We want to give them the light of day. Right now, my guess is that there's a whole bunch of things that you feel like you haven't done, and maybe you've already made a list, or maybe what is happening is you're kind of thinking about them and trying to push them to the recesses of your mind. And again, thinking about what is the greatest value I can give today, it is to give you that space and time for the important but not urgent work, which is kind of coming face to face with the skeletons in the closet. And I'm using dramatic language on purpose because I want us to be able to identify what those things are and then look at them objectively. We don't want to make them worse than they are. And I want for you to be able to look at them with grace and compassion and non-judgment of yourself for having this list outstanding. So what I'd love for you to do is just the same way that you wrote everything down for the things you've accomplished, we're going to write down all the things that either you haven't done them, right? You wanted to do them and you didn't do them, or you've done them, but you've done them poorly. So you kind of feel badly about it or you regret it. So let's get that list out there. We're not going to spend as much time on this list. I wanted to spend more time on your accomplishments. I don't think you'll need as much time for this list, frankly. And I think there's probably a lot less once you see it on paper, but let's get that down on paper. So I'll give you some ideas. Conversations that went badly, maybe situations where you lost your cool, you didn't portray yourself the way you wanted. So that's not so much something you didn't do, but maybe something that went poorly. Maybe there's somewhere where you didn't stand up for yourself. Maybe there's a conversation where you didn't set boundaries. Maybe you took on too much. So kind of the flip side of not setting the boundaries and then you regretted it. And then what did you maybe not do that was really important to you? So here, if I look at my own list, one of my big projects this year is a house project. And I have a list, I have a beautiful list of all the things to do in the house. And I made a lot of progress between September and probably the new year on that list. Some minor and some major things around the house. And then the kids had spring break. And since then, it's just been a little bit crazy. We've had a lot of 4-day school weeks. And so I have found there's a bit of a jam in terms of managing family life and my professional life. So the house project has been put to the side. So on my list, I put my house project. I've also had some business ideas that I wanted to pursue. I set a goal about to do with digital marketing, and to be honest, it didn't feel very aligned, and I haven't done that. And so that would go on my list. I've had conversations for sure, some of them recently, where I feel like, if I had a do-over, I would certainly do that differently. So think about all the things that make you feel a bit icky, maybe that give you that haunting sense of remorse, projects that have gone sideways, goals that have not been done, they've gone sideways, they've been abandoned. Maybe there's some relationships that have gone in a direction that you don't like. You might think about your inbox, all the emails that are languishing in your inbox, languishing files, stale invoices, WIP, things at work, right, that just haven't gotten done. Maybe you've got a project you're supposed to do, a proposal you're supposed to write. So put all of that down on your list. And maybe the list is getting really long. That is okay. That is the point. We want to put it all on paper. Around the house, maybe there's some messy drawers. Maybe you've got a messy office, a messy closet. Maybe there's clutter piling up in the kitchen. Maybe your garage has become a resting point. Ours has become like this halfway house where things go to die. So if we can't throw it out because maybe the kids would be upset. It's been moved to the garage. And if you try to get into our garage right now, it is definitely it's not pleasant. So that's something that needs to go. Uh, Maybe there's bills that you need to pay, subscriptions you need to renew, uh, maybe there's old makeup you need to throw out. So the idea here is just make that list. And what I'm hoping for you is number one, is we're externalizing this list. So if this list has been eating up brain space for you, I'll often talk to clients about using their brain as a storage locker when it comes to time management. And I encourage everyone to always have a system, right? Have a system for your time tracking so that you're not trying to remember everything. It's a drain on your working memory, right? If you think of your memory as a finite resource, which it is, it's part of your executive functioning skills. You want to use your executive functioning skills at their highest possible capacity. So if you're filling up your brain with things like go pick up dry cleaning at 4 p.m. and meeting at 2 p.m. or whatever, if you're trying to remember all those details, it's kind of like using your brain as a storage locker. So we don't want to do that. And, I've never really thought of it as a storage locker for all the kind of gnarly things that are on your mind. But that's kind of what we're doing here is we're emptying out the storage locker. We're putting it all on a piece of paper, and that's just going to free you up. And when it's done, here's what I want for you is to be able to look at that list. And hopefully you're looking at that list right now. And maybe you're thinking, wow, Paula, why did you make me do this list? But there it is. And I am going to invite you to accept that list for what it is. On today's date, June 26, 2025, there it is. And we're going to accept it. This is where we're at. This is the reality of today's date. And if you feel any sense of judgment toward yourself, or maybe even judgment toward others, if you feel any sense of shame or another sort of icky emotion, I just want to invite you to release it, to do that here, right now, together, to say, that's okay. That's where I am. You're exactly where you should be, where you need to be. Sometimes it's helpful to think of it like a movie, right? We're halfway through the movie. It's not finished yet. There's plenty of time, and that's okay. And the last thing I'm going to say about this list for now is to have compassion for yourself, to have compassion for everybody else in this Zoom room, that we all have those items on that list, and that is okay. So we're going to park that list for now. And I have a plan to come back to it briefly, but what we're going to do is now move into a completely different phase, which is to look ahead to December 31st, 2025. And we're going to dream, we're going to scheme, we're going to ideate. And for the purpose of this exercise, I encourage you to think as expansively as you possibly can. So, from where you are today, I'm going to ask you to make a list of the things that you would love to achieve by December 31st, 2025. And it might help if you start with the kind of predictable, realistic goals that you have. So, for example, if you have a billing target, maybe your goal is to reach your billable target. If you have goals already that you set at the beginning of the year about maybe the hours that you want to keep, a team you want to build, a job transition that you want to make. Maybe you're in the middle of transitioning and you're looking at different opportunities. You're interviewing, you're trying to see what else is out there. Then maybe one of your goals is that you want to have that new position. Or maybe you're approaching that partnership level and you're in the process right now of doing interviews and making a case or helping others to make your case. So think about where you are right now and what goals you have for the end of the year and start with that. So let's do a full laundry list. And we're not going to discuss or go into each of these items, but it's really important for the purposes of our exercise that you make a really comprehensive list or as comprehensive as you can make in the next few minutes. And I would love for you to be thinking about work and outside of work. So, do you have goals? If you're a parent, a parenting goal. I know that's big on my list for next year. I mean, if I were to give you some of my goals for the end of the year, One of them is to really streamline my practice. I want to be more focused in on certain types of work and projects that I'm doing. I want to have completed successfully a number of projects. I already know what a number of those are. Chances are you do too, right? There's certain files, maybe trials, court hearings, deals, things that you know are coming up. And so successful completion of that. In addition to your work, what else is going on? So for me, my son is going to high school next year for the first time. So part of my goal for December 31st is that he has successfully transitioned. I will define success however that looks for me as his parent. He obviously will have his own definition. Well, he probably wouldn't do that. He's not really into coaching the way that I am, but I would have that for him. I would know in my mind. Actually, I say that, but um, I think he would have his own definition of success. He might just not call it what we would call it. So what does that look like for you, right? If I look at my daughter, she'll be at elementary school alone for the first time without her big brother there. So I have goals for myself in terms of how I can support her. Maybe we'll move houses. So what are some of the goals? I know for sure I want certain things, health goals, relationship goals. Are you looking to add friendships or deepen friendships with people who are close to you? Travel goals. Do you want to go somewhere over the course of the year? House projects, living spaces. Um, and so here, start with the obvious, right? The goals maybe even that are assumed. Maybe it's assumed that you'll meet target. And then as you list out, what I'd encourage you to do is to start listing some goals that are a little bit more out of reach. Um, so here, sorry, I'm just taking a quick peek at the time. Um, what are some goals that feel really out of reach? So we want those as well. What would be out of reach? Now, for me, I'm going to mention this because it was surprising to me. Uh, one of the goals that I wrote that was out of reach was to be really stylish. And I don't know where that came from. In my mind's eye, I'm thinking about all the people you see on the cover of all the magazines that line the checkout line at the grocery store. I sometimes go and flip through them and see who's wearing what. And for some reason, I was like, yeah, I want to have one of those really nice, like red carpet ball gowns. I have nowhere to wear that. But for some reason, something like that came up for me. And so think about what would be a bit of a stretch for you and put down your wish list for the end of the year. And I just realized as I looked at the time that I'm not quite where I was hoping to be. I've spent a bit more time, which is good. I'm hoping for you. I'm hoping that this is spacious. But it means that I guess I'll move us forward. Um, I will still land you at the top of the hour with everything done. So now that you've done that exercise, and you can always come back to these questions, what I want you to do is to pick one of the goals and pick the most outrageous goal that you wrote down. You don't have to do this goal. You don't have to pick it as the one that you're actually going to do. But for the purpose of the next question, I need you to pick the goal that is going to be the biggest stretch for you. Not just the biggest stretch, though, but also the best. Like when you look at that list, so the reason I mentioned this style, this ball gown, whatever, is that of all the things that I came up with as I was, and again, I haven't answered these questions completely, but I've come up with some answers along the way. And the one so far that was the most interesting was stylish. And I thought, well, that would be a stretch for me because it would require me to do things very differently from how I'm doing it now. I don't have a ball gown in my closet. I mean, I have some nice-ish things and things that I would wear to a black tie event, but like really like beyond. I don't have that. And so it's an outlandish to me dream. And I've picked it for that reason because um, what I'm trying to figure out is what is different about that version of me who has decided to go and get the ball gown and the super stylish whatever, and who I am right now. There's a part of me that desires that, and I'm not acting on it. And there's a difference between her and me. And that might not be the goal that I picked when I sit down at the coffee shop and do this exercise later today or tomorrow. But I use it as an example for you because on your list, there's going to be something on your wish list that feels kind of out of reach for you. And I want that to be the goal that you pick. Out of reach, but also something you really want. This is not a should goal where you feel like, well, I should do this because other people are telling me to do it. This should be, here I am telling you it should be. I would encourage you to choose an item on that list that feels really magnetic to you, attractive, something you want. So imagine that you've now picked that goal, right? For me, it's okay, I'm red carpet ready. For you, it's something else, right? Maybe you've started your new firm. Maybe you have decided too that you want more style, you want more travel. Maybe you want a new house. Maybe you want to get married. I mean, maybe you want to make partner. I mean, there's all sorts of different goals that you might have. And so if you think about that version of you who has achieved that goal by the end of the year, we want to get into her head and find out how she thinks because she's actually going to answer the next set of questions. Spoiler alert. So let's start with how she feels. How do you think you would feel? So I did not intend to go down this red carpet event, but let's say if I was the red carpet wearing version of myself, I feel like I would exude a level of confidence and almost like having arrived or something like that. So for you, what does it look like? Maybe it's you'd feel more confident, you'd feel more secure, you'd feel like you were aligned. So what is that feeling that you're after? Now, if you think about how you got from where you are currently to that version of yourself, what choices did you have to make, right? What did you have to let go, first of all, right? So you might have to let go of some expectations. You might have to let go of projects and other priorities. What will you have to stop doing? So, for example, if I think about one of my goals, so not the red carpet goal, but streamlining my practice, that goal feels really good to me. And it's going to mean I'm going to have to stop doing things. Stopping doing things does not feel good to me. I'm going to have to channel that future version of me to figure out what it is that I'm going to stop doing. So, what has she stopped doing? What did she start doing, right? Maybe she started getting more help at work, around the house, outside of those realms. Maybe she took more risks. Maybe she drew tighter boundaries. She probably had to deal with some confronting beliefs, right? If I think about the example of the red carpet, ready, whatever, it means I'm going to have to challenge the thoughts that I have that it's a waste of money. It's not the right time for me. Um, it would be silly. Only people on red carpets should have a ball gown. I don't know, whatever those beliefs might be. Um, so you want to look at this from the perspective of where you are now. What do we think of that person? And we want to create that person. And again, I realize this is a tough exercise, but hopefully one that is fun and helping you think more expansively. Now, if you look at where she's at, what do you think she needed to do? What strategies do you think she needed to use to reach her goal? Now, chances are some of those strategies are going to be ones you're already using, right? Maybe she had to plan really effectively. Maybe she researched and came up with some ideas about what that's going to look like. Maybe she did some investigation, talked to some people. Maybe she forged new relationships. Um, but she's probably also doing things that you are not yet doing. So, what else is she doing that maybe you're aware of is a possibility, but you yourself are not yet comfortable with? What support did she give herself? Chances are, if she's reached a goal and it feels out of reach for you right now, to get there, you'd need something, right? Whether it's additional training or support to get there, mentorship, coaching, or maybe it's support as in you need someone else to do what you're doing right now because you need to free up your time so you can get there. So, what support did she give herself? That ties into what is she no longer doing, right? Maybe she's just not doing certain things because those are no longer her job. And then what did she do to make sure those things got done? So, in order to prioritize, what choices did she make and how did she make that happen? And who did she need to upset along the way, right? I think this is something that can be really hard to do when we know people are going to be disappointed, upset, angry, frustrated. They wish that we would keep doing the things that we're doing because it's so great for them. You're going to have to, I don't know, I was going to say rub a few elbows, but that's absolutely not the right expression. It's more maybe knock a few noses out of joint in order to get there, right? To where you want to be. And I don't mean that in an aggressive way. I mean that very much in a metaphorical way, as in order to get there, people will be disappointed. And so that version of you is okay with that. She's made that decision consciously. And then a bit of a catch-all. What else do you notice about her that I haven't maybe prompted you with a question? And then here's some fun ones too. Um, what is one piece of advice that she has for you to get to where she is? Now, if you've ever done a future self exercise before, maybe you have previous experience with this. I have. And so some advice I've given myself previously, the advice I got here. So I asked myself that advice using the stylish, whatever, red carpet example. You must be the one to set the tone, right? That's what my future self has to say to me. So that was really interesting. Um, I've done an exercise before where my future self said it's going to be hard and that's okay. And another time, this was last fall, I was at a conference and a similar exercise was done. And I asked my future self a question, a decision that has been weighing on me or had been weighing on me. And the response to that was, it doesn't actually matter, which was really an aha moment for me, to hear some part of me say to me that it actually doesn't matter either way. That was kind of shocking. And then finally, we'll give that version of you a name. So it could be your name 2.0, so Paula 2.0, and um, we might do that just because I realize we're getting ahead, and I really do want to take you to your plans for the year. Um, and what we're doing really is trying to channel your inner wisdom. And I know that sounds a bit cliche, but if you are familiar with Beyonce and her alter ego, Sasha Fierce, it's a character that she channels when she wants to feel more confident on stage. And this exercise that we've just done is really just a way to channel a part of you that maybe you don't have access to consciously. So we're trying to do that by reaching that part of you unconsciously, right? We've given you that alter ego identity, and then we've asked some questions. So we're going to now turn to the future, right? This is the plan for the rest of the year. So just to recap, we've looked at what you've already achieved. We've looked at what remains outstanding. We have created a list of what you want for the year, which has given you something to work toward. And so what we're going to do next is first of all, well, we're going to write a story, but it's not you who's going to write the story. It's that alter ego version of you, that one who's achieved this incredible goal. And the rest of the year is going to happen in 3 chapters. And I apologize, but we're going to spend less time on each chapter than I had originally anticipated. And I'm hoping that the work we've done already has set you up to do this work together and also after our call today. So the 3 chapters are chapter 1, summer, and I'm going to call it the summer of rest, reflection, and release. So that's July and August. We'll have the fall, revival and production. And it's not the sexiest name, but the the rhythms of work as I've observed them is that things taper down in the summer and they ramp back up after Labor Day. So we're going to plan on your practice being busier September to November. And I appreciate that maybe not everybody's schedule will be exactly on that same pattern. And then winter is going to be all about results. So the things you're going to create and embodiment. So not just the result on paper having occurred, but you having transformed and embodied um, some version of who you've just imagined, right? You're closer to her than you are today. And we're going to work backwards. So starting with the winter, and again, imagine you're that 2.0 version. I'd like you to pick 3 items from your list that you are going to choose as goals for the year. Now, you do not have to pick that stretch goal that you use to create the persona of your future self. that version of you, the one who's making decisions, she's already achieved that goal anyways. So she's not super fussed about meeting that goal. What she's going to help you do, though, is think about your current goals in a way that is more strategic, right? We're thinking like her now. So, what are they? And the things that I want you to do here, just pick three. So go back to your list, circle three of them, um, and they may be really easy for you to define. And by define, what I'd love for you to have at this section, we're going to move on from this question relatively quickly, is to have three neat and tidy goals that you can meet. So a billing target is a great example because it's a number and you either meet the number or you don't. Um, a money target is the same. Where it gets a little bit more fuzzy is in confidence. If you're measuring, I want to be more confident, I want to lead a team or I want to lead my team better. Um, I want a new job is an easy one. There's an actual transition, so that would be more objective. So uh, some objective goals, meet a target, complete a project, build a team of X number of people, make a transition. So those are goals that are easily, objectively, yes, no goals at the end of the year. Um, and if it's a subjective goal, like a practice management goal, it might be more subjective, like I feel on top of my time as opposed to behind. I feel more confident, in which case, we'll want to give some more tangible measures attached to that. So if it feels more confident, maybe you're self-ranking at, maybe you're currently feeling at about a 5 out of 10 most days. You want to be at an 8 out of 10 most days. So we're not going to get into that right now, but that's something I'd like you to keep in mind. If you're creating subjective goals of your three goals, we want to break it out a little bit just so that in December you can say to yourself, well, yes, I reached that goal because, and you have a way to measure that. So we have the idea of what you want to create. And now we're going to have to look at the fall. And here is where you're probably going to want to spend more time after our call. And that is looking at those three goals that you just picked and to go through each of those goals and create the way you're going to get there. And when you do that exercise, start with the goal that's most important. Like of those three, you'll have a priority ranking between the three of them for whatever reason. So label them now, one, two, three. That'll make your job easier. And then you're going to do the to-do list of all the things that you need to do to make those goals happen. So it'll be the checklist. And we're not going to spend time on that right now. Again, you want to do that from the perspective of your 2.0 version. So I'll give you this list of questions. What you'll end up with is a long list of things. And then what we want to do next is the summer. And so that's the most immediate. And I have three different sets of questions for you to prepare yourself for the summer. And the first is rest. And I would love for rest to be one of your priorities over the next 2 months. And we're going to start your rest with peaceful and proactive planning. This is, for me, one of the best tools to actually ensure that I'm going to have peace is that I know that things have been accounted for. Once you have done that list, and I appreciate you'll have to do this after today's webinar, think about what items on your to-do list you can schedule now and over the course of the summer. So, for example, I know I'm giving a number of talks in the fall and winter, and so I'm doing my best to get those dates on the calendar now so that I know that those sections are already dealt with. I don't have to think about it. I'm lining up speakers in advance so that all of that is done for me. Kids transitions back to school, planning time for what that is going to look like. So think about some of the things that are coming up for you. Maybe there's court hearings and you know you're going to schedule discoveries before that or prep time or whatever. So try blocking into your calendar time. And really what you're doing is you're giving yourself the peace of mind of knowing that you've got time allocated for the projects. And once you've done that, I want you to also schedule time for activities that you enjoy. Now, here, what I'd encourage you to do is much like we just did a list of what you want and what you want to create. Think about some things that are regenerative for you. So it might be reading a book, it might be taking holidays, it might be reducing your hours over the summer or having a staggered work week where maybe you take Fridays off once a month or twice a month. So think about how you're going to incorporate more of the rest. So that first part of summer is rest. And by that, it could also be recreation, things that are fun, social things, holidays, travel, all of it. The next category is reflect. And so, what decisions do you need to make in terms of your career and personal goals? So, again, we're thinking about some of those choices, the things that you let go, things that you bring on. And summer can be a really good time, just like we've spent time today thinking. When you've got those quiet pockets, I encourage you to reflect on what we've talked about today, even. You can bring your notes and just see what decisions you need to make and then let yourself make those decisions, knowing that you can act on them in the fall. And then release. What will you let go of? Physical things, right? Physical clutter, for example. Maybe you've got a garage that looks like mine, and non-physical things. What are some of the expectations or judgments, pressure, relationships, titles, roles, responsibilities? Another thing you might want to release is your attachment to the trade-offs that you'll need to make for decisions. So, for example, if one of your goals requires that you set boundaries and people are going to be upset, you may need to release the need for people to be happy with you all of the time. So, what are you willing to let go of? And this is a great time to go back to that list that we did as a second set of questions, right? The things that are not done or the things that are done poorly. And as this sort of new, more further along version of yourself, look at that list, the things that you haven't done and the things that you've done poorly, frankly, and ask yourself, you can use that 4D approach. Do I delete that thing on the list? I mean, there might be things on the list where you haven't done them, and you know what? You're not going to. They don't need to get done. Are there things you might delegate? Are there things you might defer? So there might be things on that list, and you think, okay, this I can do, but I'm not doing it over the summer. I'm going to do it in the fall. Or maybe there's things that you just want to do. So release, right? That would, in effect, release it. If you just did it and got it over with, you can release whatever attachment you have. So going back to the summer, we've now looked at, rest, reflect, and release. So we're getting close to time. And what I'll do now is I just want to recap what we've covered today. Phase one was listing out all your accomplishments and celebrating and acknowledging where you're at now. And we've also looked at what hasn't yet been done. And we have accepted that. We feel compassionate with ourselves about that. And we've externalized it. We can always go back to it and look at it, but hopefully it's not as scary now that we've actually just seen it on paper. Phase two is we've looked at goals for 2025. And some of them are really exciting, some of them are more predictable. And we've asked who you would need to become to achieve those really expansive goals. So you've been able to tap into a different way of thinking. And phase three, we identified three things you want to accomplish this year. We've defined for December what success looks like and who you need to embody to be successful in that way. We've looked at September, October, and November. And now that you've got three of your goals, you can do that checklist of what you need to do. And then finally, July and August, you've decided on number one, what you can do over the summer to plan and set yourself up well for September and following. You've identified some activities for rest. You've made or hopefully identified some areas where you can do some self-reflection. What decisions do you need to make? And then finally, what are you going to release? So that is what I have for you today. And hopefully, what we've covered today has been what I hoped for you, which is to really get to know yourself better. And hopefully, you've had some moments and some takeaways during today's call that have helped you really understand yourself better and what you're hoping to do this year. Now, I mentioned I have a group coaching and mastermind program coming up. So for anyone interested, you're welcome to stay on just for a minute. I will share a few words about that. I've put the link to that program in the chat. And that is a program, I'll maybe spend 5 minutes on it. And if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. No one can see your questions, and I won't read out people's names. So I know sometimes people are a bit shy about that. Basically, it's a program that runs for 6 months. I will cap the group at 8 women lawyers. I have found that it's been so far all Canadian women lawyers from across Canada. Uh, I do get the course approved for CPD credit. It has been approved every time I've run it for 14 EDI credits in Ontario and 14 credits in BC, two of which count for professional responsibility, I think it's practice management, professional responsibility. So you do get credit for it, or you should. And that's just a small piece of it. The real magic of the program is that it's a 6 month container where you work alongside a group of other women lawyers who are similar in that they want this experience. And, people ask, how do you manage the group? Should I, you might feel uncomfortable about it, but I've had amazing luck to date. And I don't think it's luck. I think it's because the people who are drawn to this program are so well suited to it. And the group that just finished really was a great example of that. And the chemistry of the group, the caliber of women that were there, I mean, it was really exceptional. And I'm hoping for the same to continue, right? I've had some really incredible, well, all incredible women come through the program. And so we cover a theme every month. Month one is setting a goal. So we could you could follow on from the work we've started today to set a goal for yourself that you would work on between now and December. That would be January. And I take you through a process to set the goal. And I will review your goal as your coach if you want me to, and I would love to. And you share your goal with the people in the group. So it creates a sense of accountability and support that I think is unique. And I know it works for me. I've done programs where I've been one of the participants, and I absolutely love that format. One of the things I love most is that you'll be anticipating a call and you'll have that goal in mind and you'll be like, ooh, I haven't really done anything. So maybe I should make that phone call before I report in to my peers. Or you'll be about to have a difficult conversation. You'll think, I'll feel so proud when I share this with the group. So um, anyhow, you'll set the goal in July. And the next month we move into self-concept. So we've touched on that a little bit today. This idea of embodying a version of you who has achieved a particular goal, that will be what we focus on for the month. So trying to figure out how you currently view yourself. What is your current self-concept? And who do you need to be or become to achieve the goal that you set in that first month? Then we move into obstacles. And obstacles are one of my favorite topics because everyone has a different set of obstacles depending on what bothers you, what you find hard. And those obstacles effectively become your blueprint for success. You learn what your challenges are, and then we figure out how you're going to address them. Then we move into confidence, authority, and power. So we spend a month exploring what that looks like for you and what would be different, right? I think for all of us, if we were to ask the question, if you felt 100% confident that you would achieve whatever goal it is that you set, what would be different, right? Where's the gap? And the way I see it is that we're probably all operating at some 60 to 70% level. But what if we were at 100 and what would be different? So that's really the core of our work there is channeling that sense of confidence, building confidence, really strengthening our relationship with authority and power, increasing our comfort with those things. Then we talk about boundaries. So boundaries, we all struggle with boundaries, or at least everyone I've ever talked to and worked with, women lawyers, men lawyers, all lawyers. I think it's a service profession where people are there to help people, and it really feels awful to have to say no. And so figuring out how to do that, where you might be drawing boundaries, how to approach that in a setting where people don't want boundaries. Let's face it, most people don't want you to set boundaries. And so how do you deal with that? And then finally, the last thing we focus on as a group is sustainable success. So, how do you care for yourself? How do you create that balance between the different components of your life, right? And I don't see work and non work as being airtight containers. They really do go hand in hand. So, we talk about how to integrate those. We also have a couple of calls for one of them being time management. So, I'm a huge junkie of time management, productivity, and all things practice management related. And so I tailor that class. It's usually an hour to the group, and what I'm sensing are the biggest challenges for that particular cohort. And then transitions, right? Pretty much everybody who has joined the program is transitioning in some way, right? Whether it's job A to job B, or they have just transitioned from job A to job B, or they're transitioning into leadership, or they're trying to recreate their practice, right? Their practice management, that too is a transition. And so we go through a model of change, and I help you really with the process of transition. So what you have altogether there are 14 hours of group calls over the course of 6 months. In addition to that, we also have two coaching sessions that are private, so an hour long each, where I work with you independently as your coach to help you with whatever aspect of your work you would like my help with. So typically that would happen at the beginning and the end of our time together, but it can be different depending on what's going to work best for you. Some of the clients I've worked with through this program have also asked me to do additional coaching. And so that's an option as well. If you want additional support, we can do independent coaching outside of the program as well. So that's basically the structure. We start in July, so I'll open the course platform on July 1st, and our first group call would be on July 9th. So the group calls are the second and fourth Wednesdays of each month. Um, you can look at the calendar and you'll be able to spot them. I hold the calls at noon Pacific time. Now, the dates don't really move. I will probably adjust December's calls because one of those days would be, I think, December 23rd. And so I would shift things around so that we weren't smack dab in the middle of the holiday. And I may need to make an adjustment this summer, but I will give you lots of notice, and I will schedule makeup calls so that if you do miss a call, or so that there are opportunities for that. So, for example, this round, I did need to move a call with relatively short notice, and I offered two different time windows to make up that call so that as many people as possible could attend. Um, the calls are recorded, so if you cannot attend live, that's fine. You can still watch the recording. I do encourage participation though, because it is such a richer conversation when we have people attending in person and, well, virtually in person, and able to have that dialogue. So, um, hopefully that covers the current price of the program is $1,250 Canadian, including GST. If you follow the link on the that I've posted in the chat, you'll see that. You'll see some registration information. There's some FAQ information. And really I think it's a really unique opportunity to work alongside other women lawyers, an opportunity to work with me in a capacity that I think is just quite unlike anything else. I think there's a real magic to seeing how other women are approaching their law practices. I've had some incredible feedback from women who have found the program to be transformative. It has really shifted the way they practice. It has really helped a lot of women build their confidence to be more intentional, to have concrete tools for goal setting and confidence building and time management. And so it really is comprehensive. And if it's something that sounds appealing to you, my guess is that it's something that you would enjoy. So that's really all I have to say about that. And I feel very grateful to all of you who have stayed on. I know we're past time, so I appreciate you staying here with me. And I'm just going to invite any questions before we wrap up for today. Okay. I don't see any questions in the Q&A. So what I'm going to do is wish all of you a wonderful summer. I'm going to thank you for joining me here today. I have really loved preparing for this call with you. I've really loved imagining each of you at the other end of this Zoom conversation with your pens in hands. And I hope you've had some amazing takeaways. You are so welcome. I just saw a note in the chat. Thank you. That was great. You are so welcome. I hope this has been really valuable for you and that that what we've done here has helped you find clarity, has helped you take time away from the busyness of day to day and reconnect with a part of yourself that maybe you just haven't had a chance to connect with. So with that, I am going to say thank you. I'm going to say farewell. If you have any questions, please send me an email. You'll find my email online. I will send you a note with the recording to this podcast, this webinar. And so you can always reply to that as well. So thank you again. I wish you a wonderful rest of your day and summer. And if you're interested in learning more about the program, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about that. Thank you and bye for now.